Hello and welcome to another video from me, Rough Swordsman, Wargamer. It's time for another playthrough, and some of you may recognise the map. It is, of course, Point Blank, V is for Victory, a squad-level tactical game designed by Sean Druelinger and published, of course, by Lock and Load Publishing. So let's have a look at the scenario. The scenario is Ham and Bloody Jam. And my friend Dave from Dave's Gaming Cave has played this scenario, and I was going to play another one, but I've decided to do this because not only is it 2 turns, it's got the British in it, so I hope that's okay. And I also will be using the solo bot. So Ham and Bloody Jam, June the 6th, 1944, Banneville, France. The singular job of the glider troops of the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry on D-Day was to be inserted via gliders and capture the bridge over the Caen Canal and the nearby Renville Bridge that spanned the River Orne in a coup de main attack. This action aimed to prevent German armour from crossing the bridges and attacking the eastern flank of the landings at Sword Beach. The code word of Ham and Jam was to be broadcast in the event of capturing the canal bridge and the river bridges, respectively, intact. So here we've got the order of battle for the Germans and the British. As I said earlier, it's 2 turns. We'll see what that's about when we get going. And the British player has the first impulse. Victory conditions: the British must capture and control the bridge objective at the end of turn 2. And because we're playing solo, the postures for the 2 sides: the British are, of course, on the offensive, and the Germans will be defending that bridge. Over here, we've got the special scenario rules. And rule number 1, this bridge is actually the Pegasus Bridge, and it's telling us that the river flows through this bridge and instructs us how to set it up, which we'll show you in a moment. And if we look at the objective, the bridge, and of course, if you don't know, this is a card-based squad level game. These flags tell us what type of units must control the bridge. And we need 2 white flags, which are normally sort of infantry, and the black ones tend to be ordnance units. But for this scenario, we can ignore the black flag, the ordnance flag. The second rule says that when we set up in a sector, which are the sort of rectangles of the map, we draw terrain cards and place them there. The German player also receive 2 wire terrain cards, nasty, and we'll show you where they're going to be placed in a moment. And the last one here is about reinforcements. Major Haag and his Fallschirmjäger squad. And you can see some crossings out and alterations here, because there are some clarifications and errata which you can download from Lock and Load Publishing, and I'll leave a link for that in the description. And this is just telling us about those reinforcements, that they've adjusted the placement sectors. That's it. Next, we've got the terrain cards. So for every scenario, you have a standard terrain deck, but that may be adjusted depending on the scenario. And here we take out certain terrain cards and add other ones. We've done that. This tells us where to place the starting objectives and terrain. And over the page, we have a representation of the map. Here is the Allied side, which is this side of the map in our case, and the German side with these features which we're going to place now. So let's have a look at the map. So here's the map. It's got 3 areas, which in our case are the ones that go from left to right, and sectors, which are the individual sort of rectangles. So here's our bridge, showed you earlier, and the 2 river terrain cards. And you may be able to see units may not enter this area. So they're out of bounds. And over here we have a stone wall, and that number in the corner down here is its defensive value. And here are these two wire terrain cards, which we're going to place now. And you may be able to see there, it says infantry must use in-sector movement to remove. To replace this, an in-sector movement, as it's called here, is done, and then we can choose another terrain card, but we'll show you that as it happens. I think we'll just place them here to impede our British lads from moving too quickly. So just to remind you once again, we're not teaching tactics for this game, and there will be mistakes, I'm pretty sure, which you'll let me know about, I dare say. But this is just me playing the game to the best of my abilities, having fun, and seeing if it's the sort of game you would be interested in. Right, that's the map set up with the terrain and such. Let's have a look at the units. So here are the British para units, which I'll be controlling. Pretty straightforward. We've got 7 squads of those. We'll have a quick look at what's on the cards. Up here at the top right, you can see these flags, which correspond, if you remember, to the objective there. So we only need to get 1 full squad on that bridge and keep it there for 2 turns. Here, of course, is the nationality. This row of icons here are that unit's individual actions it can do if we play something called a unit action. Down here we have the firepower of that squad, and its range is the smaller number above it. And this one is the unit's morale, and they're all the same. So that's our paras. We've also got a couple of leaders. We've got Sergeant Angrave and Lieutenant Hughes. And here we've got their morale and their leadership value, which helps out in things like attacks and the like. Down the bottom, we can see these action icons. And this here means that to use one of those actions, we have to turn it on its side or spend it, a bit like that other fantasy card game that's been around for a while. And just to finish off, some support weapons, a couple of Piats and a couple of Bren guns. And here we can see that black ordnance flag. And we know it's ordnance because it's got something different along here. This is the way ordnance fire is carried out, and the different colours relate to the different ranges. And the first number is the to hit number, the black number, and the second number would apply if we are firing against an armoured fighting vehicle. It's the penetration number, but there are no AFVs in this scenario, so we will be using the HE value. And a couple of Bren guns, not very powerful, 1 firepower, but has a range of 4. Well, that's the Brits. Here are the German units, and at first glance, not very powerful at all. We've got second line squads here, not so many action icons, and don't worry, we'll be going through what all those little symbols mean, but they've got the same stats as the paras. But there's only 3 of them, and we've got some half squads, even less action icons, and look, no firepower of their own. They could use support weapons, but I think the Germans' most pressing thing they're going to have to do is try and amalgamate those back into a full squad, and you can do that during the upkeep phase, which we'll see a bit later on. So you think maybe the Brits haven't got too much to worry about, but hold on. They also have a couple of leaders, a couple of lieutenants, Lieutenant Werner and Lieutenant Anders, and you can see again these icons and the spent action there, and quite good morale, and again a leader modifier of 1. But on top of that, the Germans have 2 MG42s, which have a firepower of 3 and a range of 5. And not only that, they also have a 7.92 machine gun weapon team And another weapon team here, 50mm anti-tank gun. So again, we can see the black flag denoting its ordnance and the ordnance colour bar down the bottom. Once again, though, the Brits have no armoured fighting vehicles, so they will be using their HE value. And this thing, again, has a firepower of 4 and a range of 5. So probably not as easy for the Brits as they are hoping. Okay, next we're going to set up the units on the map. And the Germans will be setting up first. So let's do that. So in the rules, there is a solo section, the setup, and we're going to be using this part of the rules, the defender setup. So it says the AEO, the bot, will set up in the scenario with units in the objective sectors. Well, we've only got the one sector, that's the bridge. And again, I've got to apologise for the glare and weird reflections. I've had to put the maps, because there's 2 of them, under plexi. There's a join here. So apologies, and we'll work around it the best way we can. Now, the placement of these units in the objective is determined through the objective placement setup order. And the one at the top of the list is 1 weapon team and 1 infantry unit. So let's do that. Here's our infantry unit. And I think we'll put the 7.92mm machine gun weapon team with them. We now have to place a leader with them, and it says they will favour the infantry leader with rally action icons. Well, they've both got them. That's the rally icon there. The morale and leadership values are the same, so we'll put Lieutenant Werner there. We have to place a support weapon in the objective as well, so in goes an MG42. Getting quite busy in that sector now. And for the rest, we have to distribute the remaining units equally among the 3 areas. It also says units will set up in terrain that is included in the scenario start, providing it's got a positive defense modifier, which this one has. So we'll pop second line squad there. The only problem is they can't retreat back across the river. They'll have to come down here and across the bridge. And yes, this game is very abstract. You have to sort of think a little bit outside the box when you're playing this. It's not a hex and counter game. As you'll see, when the Brits will be advancing up, trying to get rid of this wire. They don't actually get rid of it. They're moving to a different part of that sector, if you like, with better terrain. Got one more full squad, which will pop here. We've got 2 half squads. Now, we could put them in the same sector, and at the beginning of the German impulse, the upkeep phase, they could join together to form a complete squad, but that sounds a bit gamey to me. We've got to pop one. We'll pop one there. And what we'll do is we'll randomize where the other one's going. My thoughts behind this is if they were there at the start of the battle, those 2 half squads, they would automatically join up into a full squad, but they may have arrived at different times and at different areas of the battle. So we'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, two, three. They are going there, so they're going to have to move to one of those areas to join up. That makes it a little bit more believable, I think. We've got the other M42, and I'll probably give it to these, along with the other leader, I think. Now, the stacking limit in this game, in case you're wondering, so on their own, we can have 3 full squads per sector. We can have 2 and a weapons team as well. Leaders don't count. So I think we're okay for stacking limits. The only other thing now is this. Now the problem is if we pop it down here, it's going to go through this half closed eye of the stone wall, which is degrading terrain. It can fire through that, but there is a sort of negative modifier. We could put it here, but that means if the Brits get up to here, they may well be lucky and get some blocking terrain. Problem is it can't be moved. We haven't got any trucks. It has to be sort of limbered up to a truck to be moved. We can't do that, so when we place it, it's going to stay there. Okay, let's place it there. That's all the units placed. The only other thing I forgot to show you is the reinforcements for the Germans, and they get another leader, Major Haag, and a Fallschirmjäger squad. So hopefully we won't see that very early in the game. If we roll for reinforcements for the Germans, they will come in over here. Okay, next we'll set up the Brits and then we'll do the terrain. So we'll just move that out of the way for a moment. So we've got 7 parachute squads. We can set up anywhere we wish, apart from this sort of middle part here, which is like a no man's land. So we'll pop 2 units there, 2 there, and 2 there. Got 1 left over. We'll pop the one behind, I think. We'll have Lieutenant Hughes with those middle units. Sergeant Angrave there. I think we'll have the Piat there, that stone wall. Here, and a Bren there, and they can have a Bren as well. Right, now we have to place terrain in any empty sector. So we'll bring the terrain and action deck over, pop it there. There we go. They've been shuffled. The action deck is what we're going to draw from during the impulses for the Brits. So now we're going to pull 2 terrain cards for each sector that doesn't have any and pick the best one. So for this sector here, we've got brush and a wood building. We're going to have the wood building, I think. This gets discarded. That will go in that sector. So again, the abstractness of this, that says that those units are in that building. The only thing is, I'm not sure if the Piat can fire when it's in a building. Let me just check that. No, I think we're okay with the Piat in the wood building because according to the rules here, wood building, only these units aren't allowed to fire when they're within the structure. So that's okay. So we'll carry on with the terrain. This one here. Clear and brush. So we're obviously going to have the brush for that. And this one. Another brush and a clear. So again, we'll have the brush. Gives a little defensive modifier. And lastly, this one here, clear and, woods, right. There we are. Now it's the Germans. These have already got their terrain. They're in the objective, so it's just these 3 at the back. We'll start with the 50mm anti-tank gun. And, oh dear, a couple of roads, so we'll have a road. Clear and brush, that's a bit better. And lastly, this half squad down the bottom there. Woods and clear, so woods it is. So there we are. We are now ready to start the first impulse. We've got our turn 1 marker here to remind us which turn we are actually on, but I think we'll leave it there. We've done the setup for you, so we're ready to go in the next video, rather than making this first video too long. So there we are. This has been the introduction and setup for a playthrough of Point Blank V is for Victory, a squad level game designed by Sean Druelinger and published by Lock and Load Publishing. Well, I hope I didn't make any mistakes with just the setup, but I dare say you'll let me know if something is amiss. We can put that right in the next video. But I hope you enjoyed that and you found it interesting. If you did, and you haven't done so already, it would be great if you would consider subscribing to the channel. Really does help. Pushing the like button of the video, the thumbs up underneath, helps tremendously as well. And if you want to be informed of other content the channel uploads, then push the bell. By all means, leave a comment. Again, just to remind you, tactics ain't my strong point. So if you think I've done something really daft, let me know. We'll see if we can put that right. But as I say, this is just me playing the game, having fun, and seeing if it's for you. But whatever you put, I love to read them. And thanks as always to my subscribers. Thank you so much. And just to finish off, as always, quickly, if you wish to support the channel a little bit further, well, you can. You can buy the channel a coffee, and I'll leave a link in the description for that. Or you can push the super thanks button underneath the video. Either of which, if you decide to do that, helps tremendously, keeping the channel ticking along, so thank you. Right, in the next video, which more than likely will be a bit longer than this one, we can get stuck into the scenario ham and bloody jam, and we'll see how my Brits will do against the AI-controlled Germans. So make sure you join us for that. But until then, as always, you take care and goodbye.